Belief is really all that Bitcoin has at this present time. It's probably a computer science marvel. It's remarkable, but that doesn't mean it's an effective way to grow your wealth.
Just turns out that it is though. Bitcoin right now is the #1 performing asset over the last decade.
Can't dispute it. However, it's never been through a genuine recession. It's never actually been through a credit event.
The adoption rate right now is going faster than even the internet.
The internet is a technology.
Yeah, and guess what? Bitcoin is also a
Yes,
technology.
I know. A great technology is not always a great investment.
No, this is where you're mistaken. Bitcoin is already replacing gold as the ultimate store of value.
It's only a store of value because you measure it against the USD. Once that's gone, you won't be able to, right?
If no one wanted to use Bitcoin as a store of value, then it would be worth nothing. But guess what? They do.
I don't think cryptocurrency is the answer to people's problems because it doesn't produce any income. What are they going to do? They're going to sell the whole Bitcoin every time they need it and put it into fiat currency?
It's divisible, Lloyd. It's not like a property. A property, you can't sell off a bit of the property.
You can equity loan against
You
it.
can equity loan against Bitcoin. The great thing about Bitcoin is that you can actually self-custody.
I like the sovereignty of it. It's how our monetary system should be. And that's why I'm a big proponent for adopting the Bitcoin standard as a currency. But shit investment. Bitcoin can only exist in its form that gets people excited to post on X every day about how much it's worth if the USD exists. If the USD disappears, how will you measure the value of your crypto holdings?
I think one of the #1 things that you've missed in this whole argument is that
Bitcoin is the future, fiat currencies are dead.
well, it's clear that fiat currency is absolutely dead. Now we're moving to what is considered a new monetary system, which is Bitcoin, of course. And it's not just a monetary system, it's a network, it's an energy force, and it is demonetizing everything right now currently at a $2 trillion asset. We've seen what's happening with central banks and governments printing fiat into oblivion, which of course is ruining everyday Australians. And there's a reason why so many people now are looking to Bitcoin as the answer to their problems. And it is the answer to their problems because you only have to look now across the world at the institutional adoption, the nation states who are adopting Bitcoin, not only as a reserve currency, just like El Salvador, USA is now doing it, Bhutan, there's a range of countries now doing it. But even the USA administration is now fully 100% behind Bitcoin. And not even just the president, but you've got basically everyone in the cabinet, even JFK Jr. He now has 90% of his assets tied up in Bitcoin.
Well, Robert F. Kennedy is the Minister for Health. he's Maha. I don't know if I'd take any investment advice off Rob Jr., but you're 100% right, and I agree. Fiat currency has progressively died for over a century. That's why it's a shitty thing to own. That's why I don't own any. I agree with you. I don't think cryptocurrency is the answer to people's problems. I think it's the answer to people's problems who like to accumulate fiat currency.
Well, just stop there for a second, Lloyd, because you're conflating the two now. You're conflating cryptocurrency to Bitcoin.
Let's just talk about Bitcoin. So when I refer to cryptocurrency, I'll just say Bitcoin, right?
Because they're two separate things.
Totally get it. I don't disagree that fiat currency is dying. And by all accounts, I'm happy for a new monetary system to come into place. I'm ready for it. I'm willing. Bring me the Satoshis. Bring them. I want everything measured in Satoshi.
When are you going to then adopt the Bitcoin standard?
Never.
And the reason why?
Well, I'm happy for the Bitcoin standard to be adopted as the currency. I'm happy for that. I'm happy to trade in your hat in Satoshis. That's how they talk, Satoshis, right? Mm-hmm. It's like 100,000 of a Bitcoin, something like that, isn't it?
No, it's like 100 million.
100 millionth, yeah. So if we're going to measure things in Satoshis, that's fine. I'm totally on board with that. I'm okay with it. In fact, I would encourage it because at least then it's not going to be inflating currency. It's going to be somewhat deflationary in terms of it will gain the productivity gains of the world. So let's say by GDP of 3%. So I'm okay with that. And I know in your head you're thinking, what the hell is he talking about? How is he agreeing with me? But here's the thing. That still won't detract from the fact that how you build value and how you build wealth, which is I understand how you built it too, is not through any currencies, Bitcoin or fiat. How you build wealth is to be able to buy productive assets that produce income. So it doesn't even matter. Like, for example, let's say we adopt Satoshi or Bitcoin as the standard. One of our businesses is a laundromat. And people often ask this all the time. They say, Lloyd, what happens when like all the fiat disappears and all the Bitcoin's going to be adopted? I'm like, I hope it does. They go, what the fuck are you talking about? I thought you were against it. I'm like, I am from an investment asset standpoint because it's a shitty investment. But I'm okay with it being the currency because if we have a laundromat that's allowing people to come in and wash their clothes, I'm happy for them to pay me in whatever flipping currency we're using. And if it happens to be Satoshis, I'm all for it. It doesn't matter if it's seashells, toilet paper, fiat, Bitcoin, it's irrelevant because how I build wealth is through investment.
What is your
right?
solution then if it's not going to be Bitcoin? What else is there? Because
I don't give a shit what it is. It doesn't matter.
But Bitcoin right now is the number one asset, and it's.
What do you mean by number one asset?
It's the number one performing asset.
No,
full
it's not.
stop.
No, I'm beating it this year to date. So my Alibaba shares are up 112% and Bitcoin's up 22%.
It's the number one performing asset over the last decade at 82%
Yeah.
CAGR.
Can't
the last
dispute
5
it.
years
Can't
is nearly
dispute
60% CAGR.
Can't dispute it. However, it doesn't have a long history. It's never been through a real, as you know, it's never been through a genuine recession. It's never actually been through a credit event, ever.
Bitcoin has never been tested in a global prolonged recession.
Sure. Yeah, so it hasn't ever gone through a credit event. So, like Michael Saylor, he famously says, whatever you do, sell your kidney, but don't sell the Bitcoin, right?
But Michael Saylor's right. And Michael Saylor, I would argue,
Well,
Lloyd,
they're gonna
is actually smarter than you, right? This guy is basically a nuclear physicist, engineer.
But IQ levels don't count towards any investment prowess. Just because you're super high IQ doesn't make you a good investor.
Well, it just turns out that the smartest guy who has
don't
the
forget,
highest
Michael Saylor
IQ in the world
Don't forget,
from Korea,
Don't forget,
Lloyd.
MicroStrategy went down by 99% in the last .com. He lost everything. He even got taken through.
When
from the
you're
SEC.
comparing it to a company now.
Well, that's effectively what it is. And what he's doing is he's actually
So that
wiping away
goes
the
back to
value
your
of the
case
shares.
then. That goes back to your case then,
It's a
Lloyd,
shitty company.
about investing in companies.
Look,
they can go
you
down.
You wouldn't invest in MicroStrategy. Terrible company. I'm talking about investing in good quality companies that provide value to the world. They sell goods and services that the world needs, and that's where they derive value. The challenge with Bitcoin as a value proposition, it wants to be two things, or the story proposes two things. One, we want it to be adopted as the Bitcoin standard for currency, and at the same time, we want it to grow in value against the USD. You can't have a fever and a thermometer be the same thing, right?
No, this is where you're mistaken. It's actually everything else is going to zero compared to Bitcoin. One Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin. But because of currency debasement and inflation, Bitcoin rises in comparison.
Bitcoin can only exist in its form that gets people excited to post on X every day about how much it's worth if the USD exists. If the USD disappears, how will you measure the value of your crypto holdings or your Bitcoin holdings?
Well, you're right. Right now we measure it against USD as a standard.
Totally.
But once USD is gone,
so let's do a
one
mind map.
Bitcoin.
Let's do a
One
mind map
Bitcoin will
together.
equal one Bitcoin.
Let's do a mind map together. Let's say USD's gone and one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right? How will you know what it can and can't buy?
Well, what we do know is that just in Brisbane alone, Lloyd, in 2020, the average house was about $600,000, and it took about 20 odd Bitcoin to buy one house.
No,
and in 2025,
you only know that because the USD or the
and in
fiat's still around.
2025, it's now only like three or four Bitcoin.
No, let's say
with the same Bitcoin, I can actually buy.
Let's say for example,
more.
In which case, then the actual currency is houses we're using. Like Bitcoin is either a store of value or a speculative asset that grows in value against a currency, or it is the currency, because currency measures value of other things, right?
Just to be clear, it is currently used as a store of value.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people who want to make
people
it
using
into a
this-
monetary
Yes,
system.
that's what the Bitcoin standard's all about, right?
Well, ultimately, I do believe that it will become the new monetary system fiat currencies.
Once it does, it loses that speculative value. It disappears because all of a sudden there's no value in it. It measures the value of other things. Does that make sense? So like if you're adopting Bitcoin as the standard of currency, it's what I measure the value of my laundromat in, my real estate, etc. But there's no actual intrinsic value of the currency, if that makes sense. Like even the USD today, it's only worth what we measure it against something. Once that USD disappears and crypto takes its place, it'll be the same thing. Right? It just won't be succumbing to inflation, which we both agree is pernicious and it's poisonous and it shouldn't happen, right? With the supply of fiat currency versus not being backed by anything except for the military of the United States, right? And belief. But once that is exchanged, how are we going to develop value? You can't just limitlessly build Bitcoin to infinite, right?
Well, you can, because it's called a network.
Yes, but
so everyone is on the network, which of course the adoption rate right now is going faster than even the internet.
So the adoption The internet is a technology.
Yeah, and guess what? Bitcoin is also a
Yes,
technology.
I know. So it's like saying how
But
much the internet worth.
You were trying to pigeonhole Bitcoin. This is why people can't get their head around it, because it's so diverse in what it is. It is a technology.
Yes,
It is going to
it
be
is a great technology.
monetary system, and it is a network.
Well, it's like saying the internet has value, is a currency. How do you measure
I'm just saying
infrastructure?
the internet does actually bring value to the world, of course.
Absolutely agree.
And
absolutely agree.
And of course, the Bitcoin network is growing
But
faster
you don't like.
in
I
adoption.
don't invest in the internet.
Well, you kind of do.
No, you don't. You invest in things that can leverage the internet. So here's an example. Like, let's say I want to keep buying companies to build wealth because I see how they provide value through selling goods and services. And I can dictate the value based on how much cash they produce or how much value they give to the community, right? That's how you can dictate a valuable company. If I look at, for example, let's call it Apple, it produces almost the most value of any company in the world, yes? And people use fiat currency to buy its products, yes? Well, if they use Satoshis or Bitcoin to buy those products, it doesn't take away any value of the actual company of Apple. It's still valuable.
I agree with you.
Right?
The company is still valuable.
So,
yes.
so it's deriving value from the internet, of course, because we buy things through the internet, but it's not getting its value as the internet.
Bitcoin will replace gold as the ultimate store of value.
Well, Bitcoin is already replacing gold as the ultimate store of value. Right now, the market cap of Bitcoin is about $2 trillion. Gold is roughly at $20 trillion. Now, because of the attributes of Bitcoin, it's divisible, it's portable, it's scarce, unlike gold, which it is not. Now, I understand what you're going to say. Gold's been around forever. But of course, that whole gold system is completely manipulated, right? I can put Bitcoin onto my own person and take it elsewhere, right? So those during wartime, back in World War II, who wanted to escape Germany, they couldn't pack up all their gold and stuff it into their pants and walk out of the country. Today, though, I can dematerialize all my assets into Bitcoin, get up and walk out of the country, and no one can do anything about it. You cannot do that.
For what purpose?
Because I'm taking my store of value with me,
Well,
which is my time, my energy.
But
my
it's
work.
only a store of value because you measure it against the USD. But once that's gone, you won't be able to, right? You'll be taking, I'm going to take my Bitcoin. Well, what's it worth? I don't know. The USD's gone. How are we going to measure it? Well, it's in this, it's in this, it's in this. But there's no more utility.
Well, it becomes worth something, Lloyd, because people want to use it as a store of value.
Yeah, but
if no one wanted to use Bitcoin as a store of value, then it would be worth nothing. But guess what? They do.
Well, you can use gold as a store of value. I don't know about this store of value thing. I don't think it's got enough runs on the board yet to be a class as a store of value. Gold and pretty well every other asset that's been a store of value hasn't outperformed businesses for the last 100, 200 years.
Well, gold's been one of the worst performing.
It's been terribly performing. It's not a good, generally a good growth asset. And I think what's happening with gold at the present time, and I feel it's the same little story with Bitcoin, is that this inflationary story's obviously moving through the markets, and China's buying a lot of gold because they're trying to dislodge the USD as a reserve currency. And I think there's more of a chance that we'll get a global reserve currency, not from Bitcoin, but from a digital RMB as they continue to buy gold. And the real reason why gold's doing well is because the Chinese are buying tons of it.
Yes.
And it's the oldest store of value, to your point earlier about like it's got 3,000 years worth of history and data and so forth. There's more belief in it than Bitcoin at this present time. But belief is really all that Bitcoin has at this present time, right? Your technology, great. I mean, it's probably a computer science marvel. It's remarkable, right? But that doesn't mean it's an effective way to grow your wealth.
Just turns out that it is, though. And that's the reason why, that's the reason why so many investors, Lloyd, and you must talk to a lot of investors, and they look at it and they say, look, I'm in the S&P and I'm getting 13%.
Sure.
But I can have my value in Bitcoin and it's growing at a CAGR of 60. I mean, the last year alone, Lloyd, it's gone up 100%.
Yeah, but I beat that.
100%?
Yeah, I beat it.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't just buy the S&P 500. You can buy individual companies that blast through that, right? And again, we haven't yet seen what will happen to Bitcoin when an credit event occurs and people have already sold their kidneys, or one at least, and Saylor says, sell your kidney, keep the Bitcoin. Like, I'm out of kidneys. I've got to actually go and live my life. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to go and buy groceries, right?
Already is that Bitcoin is actually the better store of value.
Compared to what?
Because when shit happens, when shit goes down, wars.
Then gold? No. What happened when the world ended before? What happened in COVID when the world ended?
People move
What happened when the world ended in
into
2020? I disagree. What happened when the world ended in 2020? What was the currency?
USD?
No.
What are you talking about?
The currency when COVID happened. What were people like excited about? What was growing in value?
Masks.
No.
Water.
Toilet paper.
Uh-huh.
So when things go pear-shaped in the world, right? Firstly, if power goes, Bitcoin goes. Fact.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't see a world ending where power disappears.
Well, and the thing is, if power goes, then we've got bigger problems than how many Bitcoin you got.
Well, we do. So I'm talking about end of day stuff that people talk about. Oh, look, when the world turns pear-shaped, blah, blah. So when the world turns pear-shaped, people will trade in barter. Barter's the oldest form of commerce,
That's right.
And a currency, all that does is smooth out the barter process. Yes?
But people are saying right now, I'm going to accumulate gold. Okay, and then when
They're
the
stupid, though.
world ends,
Why
I'm going to
would
go
you
and barter
accumulate
my
gold? That's the dumbest thing ever. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there. And again, people are having the same argument. Yeah, but it's against the inflation hedge. I'm like, so what? Businesses are way better at that. Businesses are better at both of those assets than beating inflation, because look at companies like Coca-Cola, sells 800 million cans a day, increases its prices by 1 cent, has all the pricing power, and there's tons of other companies like that. It completely defeats full inflation far better than those two other things, and I can value it. So I know if I'm getting a good deal or not. The challenge I've got from an investment standpoint with Bitcoin is I don't know if I'm getting a deal or not, because I have nothing to gauge it against. Here's an example. If I was going to buy a laundromat as a business, how do you know if you're getting a good deal?
Return.
Return of what?
Capital.
Yeah, so the capital you used to purchase it, you want to get that, like the old bird in the bush. How many birds are in the bush? And what's my propensity or time frame to get the birds back? So when is my investment going to be returned to me? So as an example, if I'm going to buy a laundromat and it's say 300 grand, yeah, and it's producing 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year in income, is that a good investment?
I don't know. You do the numbers.
If you're going to buy it for 300 grand, it's giving you 200 grand net profit. It's a good investment. Okay, how did you come to that conclusion?
I'm in business.
Yeah, you're a business guy, right? So but what makes a good investment?
Grows in value.
And
Could also deliver a return.
yes, it's giving you that capital back, like what you said earlier. Now, the same laundromat, and let's say, wait, same laundromat, no cash flow, none. You're not producing any cash flow.
Not a good business.
Why is it not a good investment?
No return.
That's right. You don't know if you're getting a good deal. You don't know if it's worth 300K,
What
3
you do-
million.
yeah, but, okay, so you could use
I
the
don't
same
know if I'm
argument
getting a
though
good deal if
about
I'm buying
Tesla.
Bitcoin at
Tesla right now
$115,000.
doesn't have a dividend.
It's just shit business.
But yet
I would never buy a Tesla.
But yet
It's
it's
a
going
te-
to be a revolutionary
No.
business.
Okay, a great technology is not always a great investment.
You're going against the grain here,
Here's an
Lloyd.
example.
You're
Here's
becoming
an example.
the outlier.
The best
and what I want to say
investments.
this too, Lloyd, is it seems to be that because I see this a lot from people, because they didn't get into Bitcoin, what they considered earlier, now all of a sudden they're against Bitcoin.
I just think there's a way better ways to grow your wealth predictably and safely than speculating on something that doesn't produce income.
Hey guys, just quickly, this episode is brought to you by CoinStash, the Australian exchange I personally use to invest my SMSF into Bitcoin and crypto. Now, CoinStash is Australia's leading SMSF crypto exchange built for investors just like you. What really sets them apart is their service and expertise. If you're looking to invest in crypto through your SMSF, they make it simple. Just book a free call with their local team and they'll walk you through the entire process. From setting up your crypto SMSF account to helping you stay compliant with Australian regulations, their experts guide you every step of the way. You'll get fast onboarding, dedicated support wherever you need it. You might be investing in digital assets, but with CoinStash, you're dealing with real people and that makes all the difference. So if you're ready to take control of your crypto super and make your SMSF crypto journey smooth sailing, hit the link in the show notes and book a free call with the CoinStash team today. Now, back to the episode.
If governments can ban Bitcoin, it isn't sovereign.
The great thing about Bitcoin is that you can actually self-custody the Bitcoin. Now, I'm doing this
I like
myself.
that about it, to be honest with you.
I'm doing that
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
At the moment, you've got a big issue, Lloyd, right now with banks and governments trying to control your
Agreed.
fiat currency.
Terrible.
Right?
Hate it.
You try and walk
Yep.
into a bank. What do you want the money for?
Shocking.
Now, right now, I'm currently holding the Bitcoin in my own self-custody where nobody else has
Yes.
control. Now, the
Yes.
argument might be, well, governments can step in and ban Bitcoin, and China has done that numerous times. But of course, it causes a black market. People still buy Bitcoin.
I agree. I like the sovereignty of it. I like that it can't be touched. It's how our monetary system should be. It should be like that. And that's why I'm a big proponent for adopting the Bitcoin standard as a currency. But shit investment. Difference. However, looking at it from a control perspective, I hope the government doesn't regulate it further. But the reason why people are moving, as we were having a chat before about having geographic freedom to be a tax resident of other countries, and people are doing that all over the world because they don't like the return on investment they're getting from their country. In Australia here, huge taxes. So when Bitcoin first emerged mainstream, there was no taxes on capital gains, right? And now they adopted, you're going to be paying capital gains on them.
Because
right?
even the ATO considers Bitcoin a legitimate asset.
Well, I don't think if you interviewed an ATO
they want to tax it.
I don't know if they could even tell you what a legitimate investment looks like.
I don't even think they could even tell you what Bitcoin really is.
I don't think they can tell you much. But what they're seeking is a level of control over it already. So I hope they don't regulate it because I like the sovereignty in terms of hopefully that is distributed as a currency. But let's be frank. When the governments start to lose control of things, they exert force and control, right? So people have already been experiencing, it's not going to be regulated, can't be touched. All of a sudden, shit, it is. And I have a feeling, like in China, as we both know, they've banned Bitcoin there because they also exert massive control over the population.
Ban it, and then they unban it, and then they ban it.
They ban it, unban it, and ban it, unban it, and they're just not too sure what to do. But I think what they're trying to do is delay the inevitable of, hey, we're going to digitize the RMB, the renminbi, and we're going to back it with gold. And so if you look at that potential threat for what we're going to see as a reserve currency, that may have legs on it as well. And so you're going to be all these things vying for currency.
Well, ultimately, This is where I think USA is heading, is that they will ultimately have Bitcoin as their reserve, which might replace gold. And that you're going to think, well, I don't know, because you don't see it as a store of value. So,
well, it's one or the other. It's one or the other.
It turns out, Lloyd, it's actually not one or the other. It's one and the same. It's interchangeable. It's both.
It's adopted as a currency. How are you going to get a reasonable return?
I think one of the number one things that you've missed in this whole argument is that Bitcoin has a cap of 21 million. You cannot produce more of Bitcoin. Unlike fiat currency, you can always dig out more gold, right? There seems to be a never-ending supply of gold. There's no scarcity to any other asset except for
But scarcity
Bitcoin.
itself doesn't create value alone because we both know that scarcity created a tulip bubble.
That would help.
They created a tulip bubble. Tulips were scarce, but there's no value in them. So scarcity is one piece of it, right?
The scarcity, though, helps I guess you would argue, on the investment side of things, which because more people want to buy Bitcoin, that hence drives the price.
They only want to buy it for the fiat gains.
They come in for the fiat gains and they stay for the revolution.
They stay because they need other people to join the network to continue the fiat gains.
Bitcoin beats stocks for retirement.
Well, that's clear.
Sure you want to go there with this?
Lloyd, that's clear. The reason why so many people right now are moving over to an SMSF, just like I've done, and allocated all of my absolute garbage superannuation fund into the number one performing asset, which is Bitcoin, is because they're not going to survive, Lloyd.
You're buying Bitcoin in your super?
In my super, that's all I own in my super.
So what happens when it hits
Bitcoin.
3 million and they need to tax unrealized capital gain?
That's another problem. So you're saying don't have a number one performing asset because you might have to pay more tax?
Well, I don't believe in super.
I don't believe in unrealized capital gains tax.
I don't believe in either. I think they're both silly. I mean...
Well, right now it's compulsory, right? So the choice for people, Lloyd, is they have to allocate to something.
Yeah, they have to also diversify inside the super fund.
They have to allocate
as an
to
SMSF,
something.
they still also have to have 10% alternative into other assets, right? So you could have perhaps 90% into your Bitcoin and then 10% into something else. The challenge is when inflation ticked up to 8 to 9% in 2022, Bitcoin fell 70%. I don't think it's...
Bitcoin is absolutely volatile, but as time progresses, the volatility will reduce.
So what happens when someone retires at 65 and we go through a 70% drawdown?
Well, I don't know if it's going to go through a 70% drawdown.
It did before.
It has before, yeah. But what happens if another GFC comes down? You're 65 and a GFC happens.
Yeah, but it doesn't draw down 70%.
Well, the superannuation collapses.
Well, if they're buying Bitcoin, it will at some point. So we haven't seen a massive drawdown in the asset class, like a panic and a credit event. So I'd like to see what happens with Bitcoin when you've sold your kidneys and you've got no money left and you've got to start doing things like pay your mortgage.
Lloyd,
I think that's going to really create a lot of exit liquidity in the sector.
Ideally, people don't really want to have to think about investing, right?
Correct.
It's just that we live in a system.
Well, people don't want to think about anything.
That requires people to have to think about storing their wealth, saving something, some money, let's call it, for retirement. Okay, that's just the reality. Now, under the current superannuation system, If someone was to come to you and they're my age and they've got $180,000, it would be disingenuous, certainly for me, to say, do not allocate to Bitcoin. Because if they've got 180 grand and they're roughly 45 years old, they're fucked. They are going to have to end up living on the pension system.
Yeah, but Bitcoin's not going to help them. How's that going to help them?
But it is.
No, it's not, because it doesn't produce any income. So they're fucked. What are they going to do?
They're
going to sell the whole Bitcoin every time they need it and put into fiat currency?
Well, that's the thing, though.
And the only reason why it's
divisible, Lloyd. So you can break off sections. It's not like a property. If you had a property, you can't sell off a bit of the property.
You can equity loan against.
You can equity loan against Bitcoin. Hey, just quickly, if you're ready to dive deeper into crypto and Bitcoin and build real wealth, join my free crypto collective community. It's where I share exclusive insights and strategies and live discussions to help you succeed. Whether you're a beginner or scaling your portfolio, click on the link in the description and join us today. Now back to the episode.
Let's say, for example, you got Bitcoin in retirement. One, we know it doesn't produce cash flow, right? So you're going to sell little pieces of it over time and take away the principal, right?
In fact, under your pension scheme, you could sell it tax free.
And so what happens when Bitcoin just goes sideways for a long period of time because we can't derive any value from the cash flows it produces? How do we know it's going to continue to produce what it has in the last 10 years?
Because of the adoption rate, the scarcity, and there's just more people coming onto the Bitcoin standard.
And when we run out of people?
Well, the price of Bitcoin is expected to be upwards of $13 million.
The challenge I've got with that is that people that are just holding this piece of code are creating fiat gains that are way beyond even Nancy Pelosi's returns.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, follow Nancy Pelosi.
But it doesn't make sense that a one piece of code becomes more valuable than the businesses in an economy. It can't. It would collapse on itself. The store of value you have cannot become more valuable than the actual economy that it's trying to store value with. It can't. It's just not going to be more valuable than businesses. Businesses are the way to create value in the world. And you know that because I believe that's how you built your wealth.
Correct.
What's interesting about...
So what I'm doing now, though, Lloyd, is I'm now shifting out of the business into a better store of value.
Sure. So you built wealth. You built wealth in business, right? You built wealth in business because you know that it produces income and so forth. And now you're transitioning to a store of value to hold and hopefully grow your wealth. But that's not how you got there, right?
No, but the average person, though, Lloyd, is not like you or me, right? They don't have.
Well, they could be if they were to buy a piece of a business in stock.
Yeah, the average person, though, is working a 9-to-5 job. They've got average super. They're likely going to end up on the pension. And the alternative for them right now is to allocate even some of their superannuation fund into Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now is a risk-off asset.
It's a risk-on asset.
It's a risk-off asset.
It's a risk-on asset because it's more correlated to the NASDAQ than to CPI. Fact.
Still doesn't take away the fact that it is
that
the
actually
best performing asset.
That proves that
it's the best.
It actually proves that it's a risk-on asset. It's proof that it's a risk-on asset.
Well, people are moving to Bitcoin, though, during
because it's a risk-on asset
times.
and they're seeing all this, like, it's called recency bias. So they're all suffering from recency bias where it's like gone up to this point because of people are joining the Ponzi. So as that's happening, they're like, oh, I'll get on that too.
The biggest Ponzi right now, though, the biggest Ponzi right now, though, Lloyd, is the fiat system. That is the Ponzi.
Well, the fiat system's not ideal. And I'm not suggesting you hold your money in fiat. That's a dumb idea. People that put their fiat in a mattress and try and hold currency, that's why they say to me, Lloyd, don't you think, what are you going to do about your currency? I'm like, I don't fucking hold any fiat currency. It's a piece of shit. Cash is trash. But holding great quality, a group of great quality businesses or a great real estate asset that produces income that you know you're getting a deal, that makes a lot of sense.
If someone can go and find businesses like what you do and they don't have to put in the time and effort
they can buy an index fund and you can buy all the best businesses in the world.
And what are the index funds producing?
They're producing, since 1957, 10.5% per annum. It's not a bad return. And it's got a lot of history.
So there's a reason why investors are moving to Bitcoin is because it's producing a CAGR right now of about 50 to 60% a year. And they're doing the numbers, Lloyd.
It has recently.
They're looking at the numbers. They're saying 13%.
It doesn't have 100 years.
60%.
It still doesn't have 100. It probably just doesn't have enough data yet for us to really be comfortable with like, well, let's put everyone's flipping superannuation into that, right? So I probably agree if you're going to speculate, because that's what it is, because it doesn't produce capital, we can't value it. It's a speculation at this point, with the hope that people keep joining the network, right? And I'm sure you got some strong arguments as to why they would. However, it would be remiss to speculate people's retirement savings on that hope. Does that make sense? I much prefer to put retirement assets into cash produce things that I know, like get the bird back out of the bush faster.
People don't have the time though.
No, they don't.
No,
But they
they
just
don't
put it
have the
into an index.
time.
They can put it in an index fund.
If they're going to be putting their money into
10%
into the
return is not
current,
bad.
even in the current super, right? They're 7 or 8% average, right?
Yeah, after
It's-
fees probably.
like rubbish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is a destiny ready for pension fund, right? As in they're going to live on the pension because they're not going to have enough money to live on in retirement.
Well, I do
So
think...
so they have to. They're basically forced to look elsewhere now, and they're going to look at what is the best performing asset.
I think they're forced to look at massive risk on. You're right. You're 100% right. They're being forced with, the property policy here, with superannuation garbage. They are forced to look at risk on assets because of the policies are out of control. I agree. And that would also prove as to why I feel that Bitcoin is mainly risk on asset. And the challenge we're going to face is in a new panic, we haven't seen what happens to Bitcoin yet. I'm just pointing at your hat because I can see it on your hat. But we're not going to see what happens until we go through that credit event. Because at this point, I still can't, as a layperson, I asked my property manager the other day, I said, can I just pay my rent in Bitcoin? He said, no. So I went and got some groceries because I was hungry. And I said, can I pay in Bitcoin? They said, no. So even since 2017, as it was adopted mainstream, I still can't actually use it to live, which means in a credit event, when people are fucked and they're going to be between me and the street in a week, they ain't going to fucking hold their Bitcoin. They're going to sell that shit, get exit liquidity, buy the USD or currency, and they're going to use the currency, even though it's shit. That's what's going to happen. Like, that's where it'll go.
And I think that's one of the points which makes Bitcoin so valuable is because it is liquid. Right. So people are putting their money into properties.
It's only
for
liquid if there's
example,
people prepared to buy it, right? If there's exit liquidity.
And it turns out though, Lloyd.
So what happens if...
But it turns out though,
so what
Lloyd,
happens
that
if it's
people,
fully
there's
adopted?
not just, there's 130 companies now that are publicly listed companies in the world that have started to adopt Bitcoin as part of their treasury. Right, you've got B&B Mellon,
Yes, the
you've
same
got
sort of companies that they also adopted bonds, junk bonds.
JP Morgan
in 2008. Lehman Brothers adopted shitty B grade bonds, and Iceland went broke. Lehman Brothers went broke. I think it's insidiously moving into those things.
What I'm saying though is the adoption is there. It's not now becoming as speculative as you think.
Yes, it is.
So many companies.
It's super speculative. And the reason it is, we don't know where it's going to go.
Why? And I think the reason why you perhaps are so against it is because you're cocooned and bubbled into Australia,
but I'm
where we've basically got, hey, we've got a pretty good system here. You go to somewhere like Africa, where Zimbabwe, where the currency's been inflated to oblivion.
I'm not against it as a currency.
They actually use Bitcoin as the currency.
I'm not against it as a currency. I don't know. I'm not against it. I'm not against it as a currency. Right? Let's just make it clear. But then you've got other people. I'm not against it as a currency
because it's not going down.
No, I'm not against it as a currency. Like, I'm totally not. I'm all for. Please bring me the Satoshis.
And so what I'm talking about, Lloyd, is the adoption is there. You're saying who's going to now buy it? It is credit crash.
Well, they're speculating on it right now.
There's already the network there.
I hope that it does get adopted to BTC
People in El
standard.
Salvador, actually, government officials, politicians, and bureaucrats get paid in Bitcoin.
I'm all for it. I said that. I'm happy for that.
Which
proves
that's not what
my
people are using it for. Of network
That's
adoption.
not what they're using it for. That's not what they're using it to fucking speculate fiat gains. When Don Trump Jr. gets on X and he goes, it's get on the thing, we're going to pump. They're all measuring it in the fiat it's going to replace. They only give a shit about the fiat gains. They do. Like, it's still speculative because I would get on board with Bitcoin. Don't flip and edit this the wrong way. If I would get on with Bitcoin if it was adopted as the currency, because my laundromat would still wash my clothes for Satoshis. I'm okay with that. Totally. But that's not what we're seeing here, because people are starting to use it as investment gains. Things that go up over time. Up against what?
Because as more people buy it, there's
but
only
it can't
limited
be a
supply.
Currency and a volatile asset at the same time.
And
it's got to choose.
And this is why I think you've got to dig deeper and understand that it actually is a new monetary system. It's a network, and it is a store of value. Thanks for tuning in to Crypto Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your support is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. You can also find more of me at I'm Matthew Fraser on all social media platforms.